a real
What are you going to say?
A lot of words to describe Georgia. I mean, I would say she's a real master at everything that she does. And she used to work with ABC Home. She's a designer. She is an evolutionary astrologer. And she's also a Kundalini yoga teacher and a student and teacher of the stars. And so she's brought all of these disciplines together for us today to teach us how to really approach the design of our spaces from a holistic perspective. So really taking everything into account, our well-being, the well-being of Mother Earth, the materials that we use, and kind of how to design a space that really is for us. And so really excited to have her. And I'm Alina, and that's Lindsay. Everyone here knows us, so I don't think we have to really introduce ourselves. But before we get started, if we could just go around with our small group of ladies here and just say our name and kind of what's one thing that we're really enjoying about our spaces today. So I'm Alina, and I will say there's really nothing from a design perspective in my mom's house that I can say is great, but I'm enjoying a lot of natural light in the space. That is a big positive. Yelena, how about you?
So hi everyone, as you heard, my name is Yelena. So what I'm enjoying actually is I've set up a desk space for myself to have my own workstation apart from my beloved. And what I love is that I've created elements that remind me of magic. So, even so much as putting a painting behind the desk against the wall is a little thing that just grounds me in color and brings me peace. So I love the way I've intentionally created this like workstation. And yeah, so that feels really, really loving, nurturing to me today.
Love that. Who's next?
Whoever wants to go.
Hi, I'm Tatiana. I am currently enjoying my plants and being with them, and I've already ordered so many more, and I don't think that will stop. And just really leaning into making this a jungle. My roommate's currently not here, and she can't stop me. So I'm enjoying time with my plants because this is currently the only nature I'm getting. So these are my friends.
Love it.
Thanks, Tatiana. Hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm also enjoying nature. I'm lucky I have a garden next door to my building, so I just got to plant seeds yesterday and start growing some medicinal herbs for the season. So that's really exciting, and to just be able to be outside and there was no one there. Also, Tatiana, you have to let us know where you're buying your plants from online.
Oh yes, Rooted. I'll send the link and a discount.
Yay! Love it. And I picked Tanya, if she wants to introduce herself.
Sorry, Tanya, me, right? Sorry, guys. Hi, I'm Tanya. And I think I've gotten a much bigger appreciation for being outdoors. I think because I get distracted so much of the day to day, and fortunately, this pandemic has caused a lot of issues in the world, but also given everyone a different perspective on, I think, hopefully, on their environments. And at least for me, it's given me ability to be more appreciative of outdoor activities. So running with my husband and working outside sometimes. I've actually done that, and that's given me a bit more of a different perspective and change things up a bit, because I work from home already. So for me, it's not much of a change. I know for people, it could be really jarring, that change. So that's been really cool. I started a garden in my closet. I was telling Elena about that the other day. That's been really fun.
Cool.
Like little
in your
projects.
closet?
Yeah. I can show it to you guys. Give me a minute.
Are you growing mushrooms or something?
Yeah, what are you growing in there? The only thing growing in my closet are things nobody wants.
Well, I'm growing herbs. I live in Stuytown in Stuyvesant, so I feel like I'm living in a little mini park. It's great. I love this place. But I definitely I have a lot of light in my apartment, but not enough to have, a garden. I'll show it to you guys. How do I turn this around? Here. This is my little garden. I have lights and they like turn on every single 6 hours.
Oh yeah.
One for mint. I have parsley, basil, things like that. So
I'd love it.
Still babies, but they're growing.
That's
I'm really proud of them. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the hydroponic systems are going to go off the roof through this. I'm so sure of it, Alina.
They're tough to do with hydroponics, and you need like liquids, and also it creates a lot of moisture in the apartment. So just mindful of that, guys.
Thank you, Tanya. And then Ayaka.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so I intentionally put some I play music, and my keyboard was kind of like tucked away, but I brought it out next to my desk so that I'm more inspired to create. I also have a camera that I haven't been using, so I brought that out. And so things that I always wanted to do but made excuses not to do, I think that has helped me to have creative outlet and also inspire me to do more of what I love. And that helps me to ground more as well. So yeah, that's something that I've been doing. And also I bought seeds and I'm planning on planting next weekend. Luckily I have a roof and a bunch of empty pots. So I think it calls for a perfect timing to do a little bit of gardening as well. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Awesome. And last but not least.
Hi guys, I'm Emily. The thing that I'm excited for today is I'm isolating in not my own apartment, so I'm in a new space, but I brought candles from home so that it still smells like my apartment. So today I'm super grateful for just like the smells and feeling fresh and the smells of home when I can't be at my home.
I love that.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Emily. So now, without further ado, we will hand it over to Georgia. Please take us through your workshop and let me know when you'd like me to start projecting.
Okay, cool. And also, I mean, maybe we can kind of just put feelers out there at this moment, just because we are 20 past, and I was kind of really planning to use the whole time. Is it okay with people if we go over like 15 minutes, like till 11:15? Does that work for most people? You can always jump off if it doesn't. But I just want to make sure you get all of the material that I wanted to talk about today. So as Alina shared, I'm Georgia Marcantoni. I have a company called Homecoming Holistic Wellness, and I really take a very holistic, full circle view of what wellness is really all about. And I started out as a designer in interior design and set design and prop styling. And through my own journey with autoimmune disorders and illness, I started uncovering and realizing all of these elements that bring health into an equation or take it away, and realize that there's so many things that are beyond the obvious that are part of that challenge for us, and that our environments are actually deeply connected to our health and well-being, And as the field of epigenetics continues to evolve, it's a really new one, but it's, you know, we learn that we are a complete extension of our environments, and that our environment will also turn on and turn off parts of our systems. And so really my philosophy is sort of rooted in how we turn on healing in our lives and in our bodies through using our spaces and through using life as a ritual process. So if you want to go ahead and turn on the slides, I've never done a Zoom call with slides, so I don't exactly know how it'll work, but let's try it. So if you want to just go back to the first slide. Okay, and then that's just my info, and then the next one. Okay, cool. Let me also open that up. Okay, so we'll just see what kind of flows out of me here. So let's just talk about sort of the 3 tenets that really make up a home sanctuary. And actually, I'm gonna scoot over to this other slide really, or can you scoot over one slide over, the journey home? Okay, awesome. So let's begin with just defining what home actually is, and what does it mean and why does it matter, from at least the perspective that I'm going to talk to you guys about today. So in my point of view, home is about authenticity. It's about really going through this process of discovering who I am and how to project that from idea into form. And as an astrologer, we look at things in a way where we, like the soul's journey in a nutshell, starts in Aries. And in Aries, we ask the question, who am I? So we're always discovering this I am quality to our life, and we're inventing and reinventing ourselves as we go through this process of becoming. And that process actually really starts in Pisces, which is where we are in an infinite space, when we're in wholeness, when we're in unity consciousness, when we're one thing. And then we come into this planet and we separate as an individual so that we can discover more deeply about who we are through contrast, through polarity. And then we journey through those 12 signs until we return back to Pisces and we dissolve back into our unity consciousness. And so this process of discovering the self is incredibly, well, not just key, it's the point. It's why we come into this world, is to understand who we are. And so the home journey is part of that process, because it's our authentic expression in living form, in object. You know, all of our ideas and our thoughts and our feelings can be embodied in these objects that raise us into that. So, and I'm curious, so do you guys just see the slide, or do you see me also?
We see you also, or at least I do.
Okay, cool, thank you. Okay, and so our home is really this opportunity to be our mirroring system, because in our home space, we get to do whatever we want, right? Like, it's our rules, it's our ideas, it's our systems. You don't need permission, you don't need government compliance, you don't need anything outside of yourself. And that's how every single home is so different. It's a totally different world that each one of us grows up in, and that we create for ourselves. And so in our home spaces, we have this opportunity to really see ourselves reflected in reality, reflected into form, and to be mirrored back to us. And so, you know, what does that home reflect back to us? Have we created any of it with intention? Have we been thoughtful about this? Have we really invested in our home spaces, really ultimately investing in understanding who we are and what we need and what nurtures us? You know, have we asked these questions? And, you know, it's not about investing in luxurious products or things that are super expensive per se, but it's an investment of time and energy and focus that really is what is worth, what matters in the conversation. And so this is really our practice ground where we are learning how to build a safe space for ourselves, a container for ourselves that gives us the courage. And because we've had the practice and we know how to take care of ourselves and we know what we need and what we want, we can walk out of that front door and we can bring our gifts to the world because we're whole, because we have fed ourselves in every level and we have a cup that's full and overflowing that we can give to others. And so that's really this why the home is such a foundational root chakra need in our lives for everybody, because it gives us the safe space that's necessary to be an individual in this world and to think for ourselves and to live our authentic expression. And so you know, as we do that, we really create this moving meditation of life, you know. And so as we go in, and Alina, if you want to switch to the next slide, or sorry, if you want to go backwards because I switched those slides around. Yeah. So the 3 tenets really that come into creating your own home sanctuary, from what I've been kind of thinking about, has a lot to do with rhythm, purity, and connecting to your desire. And so this rhythm part is so key, because this is really where we begin, where we learn how we move, how we go through space. How do I move through space? You know, this is a time, space, planet, and I'm moving through it. And how do I do that? What does that look like? What is my flow? What is my rhythm? And so getting enough focus to find out what that is for you specifically. And then of course, there's this purity side of things. There are toxic exposures. There are all of these elements in our home space that can create congestion and illness in our bodies. And for the most part, most of us are very unaware of the toxicity that is creating problems in our lives, that sometimes we think there's something wrong with me, when actually you're being exposed to a chemical that is creating problems in your mind and in your health and your emotions. And just removing that toxicity from your environment can be super supportive in you finding and regaining your health again. And then we'll talk about the design stuff as well. So, you know, when we go and we design space, is it in reflection and honoring of who we actually are, what our ethos is, what our morals and our values are, what our story is? So how do we design in relationship to our own personal story and narrative, and help our highest self come forward and be provoked through the environment to come out of us? So that's kind of the last little key of this. And all of this is really simply so that we are mirroring our highest selves back to our lower self and remembering. It's helping you go through that remembering process of becoming, of coming home to yourself. So that's kind of the foundation for what we'll talk about today. And then also at the end of all of that, I'm going to tell you my process. So like if you were to work with me and you wanted to create your own home sanctuary, this is the process that we would go through. And you can do it on your own, of course. So I'm going to share with you what that process looks like and acts like and how you can do it. Okay, so we're going to skip 2 slides forward to home rhythm. Alina. Cool. All right, so how do I find my beat? What is that? What are we talking about? Well, so we have a heart, right? Our heart is our percussion system that's always with us, giving us this beat, giving us this steady rhythm that we can create our life in. And that rhythm in our heart is also connected to another rhythm in our body, which is the circadian rhythm. So we have a couple of different rhythms coming through our being. We're rhythmic creatures by nature. And, you know, part of what's so beautiful about that is that the circadian rhythm is something in our body that connects with light. And in doing that, it's part of our hormonal system. And so it helps us know when to wake up and when to go to sleep and when all of these different hormones in our bodies are excreted for different reasons. But the light is very much how that system in our body gets activated. So natural daylight is super important for us to stay in rhythm. And plants and animals and fungi and bacteria, all living beings on this planet have a circadian rhythm. And the light is also keeping them in sync. And so we are one, you know, this is not like a spiritual idea even. We literally are one thing, and the light source is part of how we stay in rhythm together. And, you know, so it's like, it's so amazing. You go camping or something and it's 9 p.m. and you're completely ready to go to bed. You know, if you're in the city, you might not go to bed till midnight. Like going to bed late has always been a thing for me. I've never been able to completely get that on track when I'm in a city. But working with the lighting can be a big part of how I can at least support myself to stay in rhythm and to not allow electricity to disrupt my natural flow and my connection to nature and all of the other aspects of myself that keeps me in a harmonious balance, and all of my moods, because your moods get affected by this. So depression, anxiety, sleeplessness, all of it, like it's all tied into this. So my moods can stay a lot more stable too when I'm living in rhythm. And so our body is really this amazing teacher, showing us and reflecting back to us where we're really at, because our mind can really sit here and say, well, I really care about, you know, sleeping 8 hours a day, and I do that every night, and da 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 da. But in reality, maybe you actually stayed up on your phone way too often, and you really end up getting like 6 hours and 45 minutes of sleep. And, you know, it's something that you really think is valuable, but it's not what you actually do. Like the body actually only received 6 hours and 45 minutes of sleep, and instead was disrupted with blue light, you know? So our body can really mirror back to us what's really going on. When we start having physical symptoms, it's letting us really know what's really happening inside or not working. And it gives us a very neutral, objective playground to reflect back to us, instead of in the mind sphere where we can really deceive ourselves or talk ourselves in and out of what we think we really do. So really working with the body to teach us and to show us what we need and what it wants, to help us connect with those aspects of self that maybe our mind is limiting us from the connection. And so as we get to know how we move through this space, we can also really understand how to support those needs. So, you know, for instance, like you know, and also just realizing like, what is really mine? What is it that I really do? And being very objective and owning it can allow us to then come in when we get into design phases and really support those weaknesses if those are things that we do that we don't want to continue to do. So for instance, if you're somebody like me who loses their keys, I had this trouble for so long in my life, and it would drive me absolutely crazy. It's definitely how my rhythm, how my mind and everything works, and I just can't seem to hold on to things like that. And so I owned it. I realized that that's what I do. And instead of just letting that happen, I created a system to support that behavior, to repattern it into something that works better for me. So I bought this really beautiful hook that I absolutely love that adds to the decor of my entranceway, and it makes me happy when I see it. And I always have a really big key ring on my keys so that when I'm searching through my purse or bag, like I feel that big hoop. And when I walk into the door, I then take that hoop and I hang it on the hook. And now I never lose my keys. I did that like 8 years ago, and I've saved hours of my life wasted looking for keys by just getting real about my rhythm and creating a system to support myself out of that behavior because I didn't want to keep it, you know. But there's a lot of intimacy that happens as we come to realize how and when and why we move. And, you know, it allows us to build this dance in space. Your life can really become a dance as we move through space when we're in rhythm with our environment and when our environment is supporting us. And one of the ways that you can build rhythm in your life, in your house, is by really living ritualistically. And so this is kind of where the ritual process comes in. And also in connecting with the circadian rhythm, we can open our house up in the morning and we can put it to bed at night. So opening all of your blinds and curtains throughout the whole house, regardless of whether you're going to spend time in that room or not that day, it can be the beginning part of your ritual. You can connect with your space. You can say hello to all of your plants as you walk by. You can, you know, say hi to your crystals or your furniture, anything that's in your house. It's all living in its own sense. And so, you know, waking up and saying hello and opening up the space. And then as sun begins to set, you can start turning down the space. So maybe we're just taking the shades and we're putting them sort of like 3/4 down. We're beginning to darken the space. And then some mood lighting begins to come into our environment. We no longer have overhead lights anymore at that point in time, and we just stick to table lamps and maybe some floor lamps. But we start toning everything down. And then by the time we get into actual bed, then we close everything up, putting all of the drapes closed, all of the curtains. And then you really put your house to bed with you. And that can really help you stay in rhythm. I mean, of course, your dogs, or if you have younger children, you know, they're really going to help you stay in rhythm as well, because they have, especially like your pets, they have the circadian rhythm in them as well, and they don't get thrown off. They always stay on that rhythm. And so, you know, attuning to their cycle can really help you come back into rhythm in your own. And then, sorry, I got a little thrown off there. But yeah, so we're building that rhythm, and it's like, you know, when we're talking about kids, we think about these sort of points in the time in the day a lot more. You know, we're always hearing about kids need structure. They need to have a regimen that they do regularly. This helps them stay safe. It helps them stay centered. And we know that in the realms of kids, but really that's just people always. Like, we all need that. And it will really serve you if you come into living your day ritualistically and in rhythm with your own nature, but your real nature, not your disrupted, distorted self, right? Like coming into a higher alignment of what is your real truth. So there is a deconstructing process as we figure out what our rhythms are. And, you know, for women, we have the extra luck of having our moon cycle or our menstruation cycle, however you like to call it. Like our moon, we are literally connected to the moon. This is where astrology comes in as well. We're connected to all of these planets in our solar system. And so as we follow the cycles and the rhythms of the stars, and we see how they're connected to our bodies, to our space, what we can do in our space at different points in our own moon phases, in our own menstrual cycle, there are different ways that we can support each phase of our body and our rhythm that's connected with the entire universe, right? So it can become this really beautiful process of connection through rhythm and through the beat, and connecting with your heart. And I also really suggest as you build rhythm through your day and you build this experience of ritual, that particularly for women, we also need a midday meditation break. So 3 o'clock can be really nice. And if you can just give yourself 11 minutes at that 3 o'clock point to just wind down, come back into your heart, it will really serve you for the rest of your day. And that midday point, you know, a lot of the times people get really tired around 3 o'clock. There's a hormonal shift there. So if you can feed that with a meditation practice, you will really like stay alive for that second phase of your day. But I really want you to think about each form and action that you take throughout the day as an opportunity to be in a moving meditation with life and with self. This is so much more than just having a meditation practice in the morning or at night. It's about living in a constant state of meditation as we go into when we first wake up, you know, the ritual of gratitude when we wake up, you know, then I mean, it's really important to live in a detox lifestyle because it helps us stay in rhythm. We need to take in energy and we need to excrete energy. We can't let it get stagnant because that's where disease happens. So I always start my day with psyllium husk and 12 ounces of water, and followed by lemon water, hot lemon water. And both of these things flush out the liver and allow you to think more clearly and be more present in your body and in your space. So, and then it's like with each meal that you have through the day, you're building rhythm, you're getting this opportunity to connect with the earth and all of the elements and the minerals and the plants and the energy that the earth literally sacrificed in order to bring you energy. Like if you go a little bit more high level on thinking about the food process of assimilating energy, like it really becomes this incredibly divine spiritual experience that you can have 3, 4, 5 times a day as you eat. Like you are actually taking a plant and putting it into your body, and these two separate things become one thing. And then it, in its process of becoming one with you and you embodying it, their energy comes into your energy. Like it's so profound, it's so beautiful, like, and we take it for granted because we just have to eat, right? And we do it every day, 3 or 4 times a day, and it's just this thing I have to do. But if you really think about it, like what an amazing gift that we created the human body that way, because we get to come into congruence and to find that rhythm and that connection with nature over and over again every day. It helps us stay in alignment with the planet and stay in alignment with all of the other creatures on the planet. So it can really become an incredible ritual process for you to offer yourself every single day instead of it being this thing you have to do. That shift can make a huge change in your own experience. And then, so let's go into home toxicity. So Alina, if you can switch to the next slide, my love. And so when we talk about home toxicity, there is a lot that can be said, that's for sure. That could be like a multi-day course of just getting into all of that. But I think for the realms of this conversation, what I really want to bring up and into the forefront is the importance of materials. So what a lot of people really don't know in the realm of indoor health, or your home and your health and that connection, is that indoor air quality is 5 times more toxic than outdoor air quality. And mind you, that's a statistic from like 2005 or 8, I want to say. They haven't done a new test since then. So I don't even know what's even really true at this point in time in history. But we're talking about 5 times more toxic. So when we think about Shanghai or New York or London or Tokyo, or places that we know are like very toxic, your home is likely 5 times more toxic than that. And you're sitting there and you're living and breathing and sleeping in it. And the reason that that's true is because of off-gassing. So VOCs, volatile organic chemicals, or compounds, they are essentially what gets excreted, like what breathes out of these different chemicals that are in our environment. So like when they dye fabric, when you have something in your house that's plastic, all of the building materials that they built your house with, the glues that are in floors and furniture, the paints, the finishes, all of these things on your home goods are all off-gassing into your indoor air environment. And especially if you don't open your windows regularly, then they stay contained in this enclosure and they circulate and they just keep growing and they don't have anywhere to go. And so you just breathe them in. And so this off-gassing situation really burdens our bodies because we are getting such a high level of exposure these days that all of our organs in our bodies that filter things like our liver and our kidneys and our GI tract and our bowels, like they can't keep up with the amount of toxic exposures that are happening. And so because they can't keep up with it, it congests and it builds up, and then you start having allergies, and then you start having mood disorders, and you start having insomnia and depression and anxiety, and you can't focus and you have brain fog, and you think that there's something wrong with you. You think like, I don't know why I just can't focus anymore. And you know, there's a multitude of things that it could be, but there's an extremely high chance that it's also because of your chemical exposures from your house. Because we spend 90% of our lives indoors, 90%, and 2/3 of that is usually in our home environment. The other third is usually in our office environment. So when we have all of these chemicals off-gassing into our systems all the time, and we don't have any space where we can detox that off-gassing, then the buildup creates illness. And so even just removing some of these toxic burdens from it's called the body burden, we remove the exposures from the body, just that can get your mood back in line, can get your focus back into your body. You can start feeling like yourself. Like some of it is personal self-growth work, and some of it is stuff that has nothing to do with that. And it has nothing to do with what you are focusing on or what you're manifesting or anything that has to do with your own personal journey, you are literally being poisoned. That's it. So we need to remove the poisons, but we need to, first of all, even like realize that it's happening, which most of us don't. And so I want to give like one example that just like drives me up the wall, that is a really easy kind of quick fix for you that maybe you haven't thought of. So when it comes to eating, most people at this point in time, probably if you're on this webinar right now, has a direct relationship with your quality of health, right? We can agree that. Knowing you have this value where you spend more money on organic and biodynamic food because you know how important it is to minimize your chemical exposures through pesticides and fertilizers and GMOs and all of that. You're totally aware. So you spend this extra money on this biodynamic spinach from the farmer's market. And then you come home with your $10 spinach and you cook it in your Teflon frying pan. And now you just coated this biodynamic spinach with a chemical, Teflon. It's a non-sticking agent. But when it gets onto your food, now you've covered the outer side of the food with this chemical, so you're more directly ingesting it when you put it into your mouth. And so it's just like cookware. Your cookware matters. Like you can get the experience of something not sticking by using a ceramic cookware. Ceramic coatings are natural and they provide you the same level of non-stick without the toxicity. So it's fantastic. There are options, but you have to know that that's an issue, right? And so another way that we can really think about removing these challenges from our body burden, like if there's one room in your house that you're going to be diligent about in the realms of clean, pure, no toxicity, I really want to welcome you to focus on your bedroom. This is like the key zone to remove toxicity, because if you can at least have those 8 or 9 hours at night or of every single day where you can not be exposed to chemicals and your body can go through its detoxing process, which is what it's doing during sleep anyway. You go through liver detox between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning. So that's why you want to be asleep by 10 o'clock at night, so that by 1 o'clock when you hit liver detox, your body is deep enough in its rest cycle that it can fully detox the liver. And then what else you can do to support that is purification systems. So I would highly suggest you get an air purifier for your bedroom. I really like Blue Air purifiers. They're supposed to be some of the highest in the market for removing the smallest particles in your air. So get a filter. Make sure that your mattress is organic and natural. We sleep 30% of our lives, and so our face is right next to that mattress, ingesting whatever in it. And if you are not buying a natural organic mattress, your mattress is coated in formaldehyde. Formaldehyde is what we put on dead bodies, right, to keep them from decaying. But formaldehyde is also a flame retardant, which is why they put it on mattresses to make sure that it doesn't go up in flames. But instead, you're getting a petrochemical ingestion while you're sleeping. So please, please, please invest in a high quality organic natural mattress. I love Nest bedding. There's some very affordable ones, like even a queen size starts at $500. I have one, I love it. It's so comfortable and it's totally clean. And you know, when you open it up, it doesn't smell gross, like, which is part of how you know it doesn't have all of these chemicals in it. Then also really focus on your bedding and make sure all of the bedding that you have is a natural material, a natural fiber. So cotton, linen, flax, silk, velvet, like a cotton or silk velvet. You know, really hemp is a great one. Really making sure that all of your materials are natural fibers. And then making sure all of the cleaning products that you use on your bedding is free and clear, no fragrance, and also a natural organic detergent. So really make sure to have blackout curtains so that your body, as you kind of get into these rituals and you make sure that the paints in your bedroom as well are not toxic or at least low VOC. In New York State, that you can't even sell paint that's not low VOC, so that's really good. But you know, looking at your cleaners and your cosmetics and your clothing, because ultimately all of these things, when you wear synthetics and you drape synthetics around your body and you put them in your environment, yes, they're off-gassing, that's also bad, but it also affects your aura. So, you know, as much as that can sound like a very like woo-woo thing, your aura is a real thing. And, you know, what I think people are starting to get a little bit more privy to is that we're not fully physical beings. You know, some of us maybe have heard that, but I think more of us are starting to understand what that means. And we have a physical form, but part of our being is also out here, our auric field. And our aura, when it's healthy, can be up to 9 feet in every direction. And the aura is part of your immune system. It's what protects us. And so when we have synthetics on us and draped in our environment, we dampen our aura. So we end up creating these holes in our aura that allow these chemicals to penetrate into our immune system and get us more sick. So know that you need to build the aura, and you can also do that through vibration. A lot of like what is protecting us at this point in time, especially as we continue to experience non-physical harming agents such as viruses, you know, we start to understand that, you know, even things that we can't see are really affecting how our health is and how we feel. And so when we can put energy into the sound current that's supportive and healing and protective, we can actually affect our aura and our immune system and our own health. So playing mantras really low in the house, or binaural beats, or different frequencies that can keep your cells into alignment and protected, actually makes a huge difference. And it also creates an awesome mood. It feels really good in your space, and it enhances in that way as well. So really protect through the sound current. And you know, I want to just give like one example in the realms of toxicity that is so important, because it just happened to me and it's really on like the forefront of my mind and my concern for really talking with people. And it's giving me like new purpose in talking about all of this, which is I moved to Denver like 6 months ago, and I ended up feeling really sick pretty quickly after I got here. And come to find through this whole process, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Like, I was just like, why am I feeling so terrible? I was so nauseous, I couldn't focus. And all of my autoimmune disorders started really getting activated. I'm an incredibly sensitive creature, especially to environment. So I'm very much the canary in the coal mine. And, you know, I seem to get the hit first when there's toxicity in an environment. I get sick really quickly. And so, but I couldn't figure out what it was. I noticed the water tasted really bad here, but I wasn't sure like what that meant. And then come to find that when my roommate and I talked with Denver Water, that there's a huge lead issue in Denver. And in fact, as I looked into it further, there's a huge lead issue in a lot of cities in the United States and throughout the world that is not really being deeply addressed. And what happens when you have lead exposure is that it disrupts your neurotransmitters, and it disables you from being able to think clearly, and it literally lowers your IQ. If you're a child and you have lead exposure, it can be permanent, you know, and it can even be fatal depending on the quantity, right? So, you know, so I talk with Denver Water. We find out that there's this issue here with lead. They give us a filter and a test kit, and when we receive it, I test the water. It's like the little packet says the highest amount of exposure that's safe is 0.006. 0.006. And we test the water, it's 0.2. 0.2. So if you take decimals out of it so it's not confusing, it's like 6 is the number that is the maximum level for it to be safe, and it was 200. Like, absolutely crazy. How is that not a public, like, catastrophe? Like, why doesn't everyone know about this? Why are we not protecting our citizens from stuff like this? So the government fully knows that, and you have to go to them, and then they will provide you a filter because they know it. They have a 15-year plan, which is an entire childhood. So it's not sufficient really for what will happen. So you just need to understand that these things are out there. And I do think that, you know, with this experience with viruses, and we're starting to get like, okay, this is something I can't see, but it's making us ill. I hope that that connection continues to build with people, because there's so much. I mean, I would love to go into EMFs a little bit more, but no, EMFs are another frequency in your environment that comes from your cell phones and your routers and all of the electrical equipment in your environment. And remember that heart that's in our body, it's our electrical system. Our nervous system is an electrical system. And the EMFs disrupt that as well. And, you know, who has anxiety issues? Who has depression issues? This is because our nervous system is getting hit with all of this radiation from our electronics. You know, like, this is one of the many reasons. But so just know that these toxic exposures really can make a much bigger difference than you realize to your own health, and that there is a lot that you can do to just detox it from your space, and you're good, you know? So let's move on into authentic design, the next step of the process. So now at this point, when we get into the design process, we're really clear about what our rhythm is and how we move and what we need and what nurtures us so that we feel safe, whole, and authentic. And so with that information, we can come into the design part of the phase of the process where we can answer the call to each of those needs and desires. So we're going to really buy with intention as we come into this design phase. Because as we buy with intention, then we embody our ethos into object. And then we see it and we're reminded of it. So, you know, maybe like you really care about artisan craftsmanship, and you have a particular fondness for Ecuador because your grandmother is from there, and you you know, you have an entryway that you need to put something in. It's like, and you're really focused on supporting women in particular. So maybe we are going to find a women-owned and led company from Ecuador that creates fiber arts that make these beautiful textile pieces that we can put in that entryway. And it's the first thing that you get to see when you walk in, and the last thing you see before you leave. And it's something of beauty, something that embodies your values, and that you got to exchange energy with through money by supporting these other people who fulfill your values to be embodied. And it's so important from like an energy standpoint too in our environments, that when we purchase items from artisans, from handcrafted creations, we change the energy of our environment as well. It becomes more sacred because we're supporting people who are doing something that they're passionate, they love, instead of a machine that stamps something and then just comes into our house. The energy is very different, right? Like when you have a machine-made product, it feels a little colder, it feels a little bit more dense. There's a voidness in those objects. They're meaningless. There's no soul. There's no heart. And you can feel that when you go into certain places. You go in and it's beautiful technically, but there's like no vibe. There's like something that's missing. And that really has to do with the soul not being in the object. So, you know, people don't really go into artisan craftsmanship, handicrafts, furniture design, all of that home product stuff. They don't really go into that to make tons of money. Not to say you can never be successful, but generally speaking, it's a really, really hard industry to do well in and to make any money. So you're doing it because you're so passionate about it, because you just love it. And because you want to carry on traditions. You know, each culture creates a different kind of space when they create home, right? It's so beautiful to see all around the world the different versions of what home means in that environment, in that place, and how it creates culture from there. So when we support artisans and handicrafts, we're not just supporting that individual, but we're supporting the greater heritage and tradition that we care about sustaining in this world. You know, it's part of why traveling is such a gift. And the more that we eradicate these livelihoods of people who are sustaining that culture, the more boring travel ultimately becomes. You know, the more that you're like, I can't really, sorry, I'm getting like messages and it's distracting me. So, you know, knowing that this is part of how we sustain a more layered and beautiful world when we're purchasing that way. So each of these visual objects are reminders for your activation. So maybe you also realized as you were figuring out what you need, that you do need a daily meditation practice, and that you do need separation from your partner sometimes so that you can go and have that practice. And you live in a studio apartment. So there's that. And so, sorry, one moment. Can you turn off the music? Okay. Sorry. Okay, so you live in a studio apartment, you have this daily need for meditation, and it's like, well, what do I do? So maybe the answer in that kind of situation is that we're going to find a corner that we can take over. And maybe our altar is something that isn't going to be so overt. You know, it's maybe not going to be a bunch of Ganeshas and malas and crystals, it's going to be something a little bit more subtle and a little bit more integrated in your space. And so we can kind of seamlessly add it in there, and there's a reverence in that corner. There's a special relationship you have with the objects that are in that corner, but it also can blend into the space and it can work outside of that. And then maybe we have some kind of curtain that stems from the ceiling that we can enclose that space, or we have a partition that's really beautiful that we can add in there so that the space can move and shift as your needs change throughout the day in that environment. But while you're in that space, you feel safe. If other people are in the studio apartment while you're there, it seems seamless with the design of the curtain or the panel, and you can still get what you need, and the space can transform with that. So, there are always ways that we can work in the design part of the process to support the needs. There's always a way in and a way through the block of whatever the design challenge is. There's always a design challenge, no matter how big your space is or how much money you have, there's always a design challenge. But it's truly the opportunity for creativity to come in and resolve it. So I love the design phase because we really get our wheels turning and finding opportunities to resolve any of these problems that seem like, oh, I can't do it, I can't get that into my day, but you probably can. But we need to invite it, and we need to make this space for it. You have to make space in your calendar, you have to make space in your mind, and you have to make space in your space so that you can actualize your needs into your daily life. This is part of how we become integrated with our own philosophies, by bringing it into these daily actions. And the last thing that I really want to say with design specific is really staying in a place of organization. Like, I'm going to totally throw out Marie Kondo on this one. Like, she has this, right? Like, I actually only recently watched her show on Netflix, and I never read her book, but I of course heard about it. But I have complete direct agreements with her and her process, and also how you organize. But really get to a place where literally every single thing in your house has a home, and it needs to go home every day, and you're going to keep it there. And when you have space for every single thing, it does minimize the clutter of things that you don't actually need, that don't spark joy, that don't tell your authentic story, and the things that truly do. And then you can, of course, think of composition. Composition is so key in how the space is going to read and feel, and also how those systems are going to get incorporated into your space. And so as we compose the space visually, we can layer all of those things in. And ultimately what you're doing as you create that composition is you're telling your story. So every object, like somebody comes to your home, every object, every picture, every furniture piece is part of your story, how it got there, why it matters to you, how you can bring your values and your ethics into a conversation. And it gives you this whole cueing process to share you with whoever is there, and to bring up some of your best memories. And that whole storytelling piece, I think, is one of the gifts in really thoughtfully, intentionally created and composed spaces. And so I also want to talk from a design standpoint, like in this moment right now, what are some things that we can really do to take care of ourselves? So there's definitely some healing products that I would suggest. I mean, I think as far as to not jump into purchasing just yet, because I don't want anyone to feel like they need to spend any money right now to get what they need. And, that's really going to go into the areas of systems, shifting space, moving things around, working on that composition, working on your rhythm. You can do all of that aspect of the design work and not need to buy a single thing. And oftentimes just in recomposing what you have, that can be enough. You don't need to necessarily purchase anything. So I really invite you to really focus there. If money is not something that you have to spend right now, you can still invest in your space with no dollars. And then if you do have a little bit of money that you can make some small changes, obviously everything we talked about in the bedroom for Detox, highly suggest you make those shifts. But there are also some like small little things that are really helpful, like weighted blankets. I would highly suggest you get a weighted blanket right now, especially if you are completely isolated and not with any other person. Just having that little bit of weight on you will really help your nervous system relax. So if you're feeling a little bit frenetic, a little bit of anxiety, or maybe a lot of anxiety or fear, that weighted blanket can be that hug that you're not getting and can really help you sleep. Like, especially if you're a lighter person like I am, like I literally need weight on me to calm my nervous system. It makes a gigantic difference for me. If you're a Vata personality type, body type, like Ayurveda, like an air element person, like you will really be served by a weighted blanket. So look out for the label Oateco. It's a textile off-gassing certification that a lot of more of the affordable brands I've noticed are going with. Like if you're looking for a weighted blanket on Amazon, you can find the Oateco certification. It's like OETKO. And so check that out at least. So look for natural fibers, look for glass beads, and try and get that certification label. So I would highly suggest that. And also even just like a circadian alarm clock. You can get these for under $50 as well, under $40. And it uses light to wake you up instead of a blaring sound. And that will also help you stay in rhythm and your endocrine system functioning correctly. And yeah, I think if I was going to get kind of like two products right now, it would be that and then plants. Definitely bring plant life in because they have so much beautiful energy to give us. And in taking care of them, you're going to come into rhythm and it's going to add just a lot of happiness and joy and value and beauty to your space that no product, even from an artisan, can do. So really work with bringing life into your space through plants and really think about pleasure as the core value here in design. So full sensory pleasure, like yes, we need space for intimacy. I would really think about the energy of your spaces. You know, what are we doing in this room? What are we doing in that room? And keeping the energy separate and designing each space if you have that much space. You know, obviously in New York, their apartments are small. We don't always have the option to separate energy, but you can do zones into your apartment or into your room and really consider like, what is it that I'm trying to achieve in this space? How can I invite myself to do that? You know, if it's like in an office space, a lot of plants are going to be great because they're going to energize you and keep you focused. In your bedroom, maybe we don't want as many plants because it's too activating and we won't sleep. And we should have, if we are going to do plants, like ferns and soft, more round, structured plants instead of things that are pointier or longer. And really make sure that your plants are coming from the place that you're in. So if succulents don't grow in your environment, I know in Brooklyn they've been a big design choice for a long time, but succulents don't grow in Brooklyn. And when you have those in your environment, it confuses your sensory system in your body. Where am I? Like, why do I see succulents but I'm in Brooklyn? There's a disconnect. It creates confusion in the body. So really consider the plants that are in your local environment and bring those into your house. That will serve your healing and your health so much better than just a plant that's cute, that is trendy, you know? So really think about that. And then think about the materials again from a sensual place, you know, bringing in the layerings of velvets, of antique textiles, of pattern, of, you know, raw natural materials like a linen then brought in with a satin or a silk, and then maybe even like a chenille to kind of just soften things. Like you can really play with texture to bring a lot of sensuality into your space and luxury into your space by not even spending a lot of money per se, but bringing those layers in will really make it feel incredibly luxurious. And even with each layer, you can think of each layer of your being, you know, like you're probably not all in one category. So when we have that raw linen with that silk charmeuse, like we get this juxtaposition that's very, you know, edgy and fresh, but soft and beautiful, you know, like bring in that polarity and balance out the different aspects of yourself that way and express yourself through those material choices and of course color and pattern, which is, you know, kind of, we could go into that forever. I could talk about that forever. But really design with a sense of place and with purpose and intention, and you will create this incredible soul map. You know, people make mood boards, but you could make your whole apartment essentially a mood board of you. You know, what do you want to manifest? Because as you, like, what's the version of you that you want to come forward? Every single thing in your space is there to help evoke that coming out of you and coming into life, into interaction, into being. So kind of think about that as you go through your selection process. There's so many beautiful things out in the world. It can be hard to decide which one to choose. And that's a way that you can make that decision is, and find your no is like, that's beautiful, but it doesn't really connect with my ethos. It doesn't really tell my story. I can let that one go, you know? So that can be a nice way to sort of filter out way too many good choices. Okay, so let's go to the next phase. So if we were going to do this in our own homes, what is the process? How do we really go about doing this for ourselves? So the first thing that I would look at is my birth chart. So if you get your birth chart, go to astro.com. You can get your birth chart for free. You need to know your birth time and your location and the date in order to get it. So that's it. And Alina, we're on the last slide, I think, or it's the second to last slide. And so we're gonna look at our birth chart, and in the 12 astrological signs, the fourth house, the fourth phase of that chart is the house of home. And in our house of home, we can obviously look here to see about our heritage, our lineage, our roots, where we came from, what nurtures us, what we need in order to support our own needs for safety. Ultimately, it's a place of building security. So it's foundational that way. And we can look at the fourth house. We can also look at the second house. This is our house of values. So we can start figuring out, like, what do I value? What do I care about? What matters to me? And this is also our house of money, because we exchange values through the exchange of money. So, you know, what should I invest in? What is part of that aspect of supporting who I am? We can also look at the moon. Where is our moon placement? This is our emotional world, our emotional needs. It has connection to our mother and our female lineage. We can also look at Venus. Venus is beauty, its values, and its relationships. And then we can look at our nodes. So the moon's nodes, the north and the south node of the moon, is our path of destiny. And so we can see, you know, where have I been and where am I going? What is this process of becoming for me? You know, a lot of the times what the soul is here to manifest, what its desire for evolution is very different than what our ego would say is the goal for my life. So we can look there to see what we're really trying to develop and how we can support that development from happening. So Those are the areas of our birth chart that I would look at, and also look at your elements. Look at the element balance in your chart. Maybe you're all fixed elements, and so it's hard for you to get going. You know, you can get really stuck. What can you do to sort of like spark movement and action in your life, you know? So kind of looking at your element balance to see what's right for you and your needs can come from that. And then you'll go through all of the discovery questions that we've been talking about in the realms of what nurtures you and what brings you security and all of that. And so you can work with that with the birth chart. And then you're going to start building the systems as you start discovering your flow and your beat in your environment. So you'll start building systems to support that. And you're going to play with it. You're going to iterate. You're going to try things out. You're going to see if it works, and you're going to test it. And as you get sure, like, yeah, that works, I want to do that, then we can invest in maybe more permanent systems, more expensive systems if necessary, or to build and construct you know, custom furniture or installation or whatever, so that we can make those systems happen in your space. And then you're going to come into the design phase, and you're going to design with intention, making sure that everything embodies your ethos. And you're going to really think about that first and last moment in spaces. So these transition points really matter. Think about the first thing you see when you wake up, the last thing you see before you go to bed, and making sure that whatever that typically is, that you're putting something there that's really supportive and sweet and a beautiful remembrance for you, so that you can have those first and last moments be really special. And just know that this is something that's ever evolving. Like, your space is going to keep growing and shifting and changing as you grow, shift, and change. It's not something that's meant to be fixed and permanent. We want to have super high quality things in there to be sustainably minded and to invest in quality, because those things will last for generations. But we also need to have a certain kind of Buddha nature with it, and be okay with things dissolving and letting them go and giving them new life, and then new things coming into our space and to shift with us. So that's kind of, in summary, my design process when I work with people, and how you can also do that for yourself. Let's see, where are we at with time? Oh shit, it's 11:30. I had no idea. So yeah, I hope people have been able to hang on through that, and that was interesting enough. But if anybody has any questions, I would love to open it up for anybody who has a little bit of time and has, you know, some specific things that they're curious about. I would love to answer like 1 or 2 questions that maybe everybody could learn from.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Georgia. Yes, we'll take 1 or 2 questions. That was amazing. And we will email everyone the slides that Georgia shared with us, as well as her information, because Georgia, and I will say I've worked with her personally, and she's a master at all of this. And so if anyone is interested in getting a consultation and talking to her one-on-one, she'll share all of that information afterwards as well via email. Or we'll be sending you that email. So,
and just so you, her bed, and it really changed the way that she was sleeping and interacting in her space. You know, like, it made all of the difference.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. So my design skill is like -10, like horrible, like the worst of the worst. I'm good at many things. This is not one of the things I'm good at. And Georgia came in and literally just from my own objects, turned my bedroom around like into a completely different bedroom. And before, I was waking up in the middle of the night and waking up feeling like somebody hit me over the head with like a brick, just like really exhausted. And she just turned my bed, I guess, to face, what was it, east or north? Or
yeah, you want it to be east.
And then I've slept like a baby ever since. So, and I wake up and there's just like so much lightness in my room. It's really made a huge difference. So thank you.
Yeah, and east or north is also good. Those are okay. You just don't usually want to have south or west. That can really create disruptions in sleep. So let's see, are there any questions?
So Gina, I have a quick question there. One on the bed thing itself that you just mentioned. So the head facing east or the feet facing east?
Good question. This always gets really confusing. The head should be facing east. So if you think about it, it's really about the sun. So you want to be able to see the sun coming up and floating over your body and going behind you to go to bed. Yeah. So we want to face east because we see the sun coming towards us. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the chat box here really quick and see if I can answer a few of these things. It says, where does one find access to these artisans, especially for large pieces of furniture? Would love to support artisans during these times. I mean, there's tons of different companies that you can look into that have artisan products. It is a little bit harder with furniture. There's an incredible artisan community in New York State as far as home furniture is concerned. I have a list of a lot of them. It's definitely an investment. These are luxury products and really highly skilled woodworkers and metal workers. There is a showroom in the New York Design Center on 34th and Lex, like right in that zone. And it's called, of course I'm gonna blank right now, it's like my favorite showroom. I'll send it out to you guys. I don't know if they sell to the public. You might have to just work with an interior designer there. But they're fantastic. It's all pretty clean furniture as well. Work of is a great website that you can go to as a public person and get. So workof.com. Work of is amazing. They're also based in Dumbo, I think. But it's a website and you can access a lot of incredible artisans. Little Market is another one that has a lot of small artisan crafts, and the Citizenry is another one of my favorite ones who works in artisan partnerships around the world with different local communities and makers, a lot of women-owned small community makers. So I would definitely look at those 3 websites. Okay, and then do you have any thoughts on thrift items? I find them to be a really sustainable way to shop, but I'm curious about soul connection you speak of. So Julia, I would say, like, as far as thrifting goes, I think, thrifting is a nice way to also be really safe from an off-gassing standpoint, because if you're getting older products, they've probably largely off-gassed already, or depending on how old they are, they maybe were made before those chemicals were even being put in products. Although other ones maybe you have to be a little careful of, like they might have lead paint on them, so it kind of just depends on your design period and where you're getting things from thrift stores. Be careful of mold, be careful of that kind of quality aspect, because mold can certainly be an issue in thrift. But I do think that in that realm, like, you can really just let your heart tell you where to go, because when you're telling your own story and that whole connection side of it, like, see what journey you end up going on to the different stores it leads you to, and the finding of the thing is part of the fun. It's about being a hunter, like that huntress spirit can come out and you can just see where you go, like allow it to be a whole journey. Maybe the journey even takes you to Peru to like meet some of these artisans in person and see how they loom and get to know their stuff. Like, it can be like a proper trip and journey. to fulfill some of these things. It doesn't have to be just your local thrift store. Not to say it can't be. You can absolutely go to Salvation Army or a little bit more of a curated thrift store and find things. I don't think there's a right and wrong there. And one website that I love for thrifting, if you want to get online, is Cherish. And it's spelled like a chair, CHAIRISH. So Cherish is a great secondhand furniture website. A lot of really great quality on there, and good prices, and they handle all of the shipping for you. If you have stuff you want to sell, it's also a good option there too. And then it says, just curious about your background and understanding spatial energetics. That's from Mary. Yeah, I'll just say quickly. So, well, I'm Puerto Rican and I grew up in the South, and then I moved to New York when I was 18 and went to FIT and got into the design world of things, and then started becoming a yogi like around 23. I got an autoimmune disorder when I was 25, and then that really opened up my understanding about this toxicity stuff and brought like a whole new element to my design practice. And then it's kind of just gone from there. I've gone deeper into the yoga, deeper into the astrology, deeper into the toxicity conversation. And now it's kind of just like dancing together. So thanks for that question. As far as feng shui, what is my thoughts on that? I really appreciate feng shui. I'll be honest, I don't know it super well. I know a lot of basics and stuff. For me, feng shui is awesome, but like the formulaic aspect of it doesn't necessarily resonate with me. I think it's really important to work with yourself intuitively, to work with your space intuitively. I think it's really important to also educate yourself on some of these things that are outside of your intuition, and to grow and to learn about these things, and to try them out. You know, life is your experiment. So try different things out, see if it makes a difference for you. I just think, you know, biophilic design principles are a little bit more in my realm of the creation process, which is a very like nervous system focused design practice that's in congruence with nature, and how to activate and sync the body with nature through design. So that just resonates with me a little bit more, and sort of all of the other stuff with space is a very intuitive sort of thing that's kind of worked for me, but I do really appreciate feng shui. And then, yeah, okay, cool. Oh, you went to FIT too. Cool, Milena. Well, I know that we're way over time, so I don't want to keep everybody, but thank you so much for being here. And I also wanted to let everybody know that during this pandemic time, I believe that this work is just absolutely fundamental for people at all times, and we're really getting an understanding of why right now. But I want to really make sure that anybody who needs this work or is interested in this work has the opportunity to connect with it and not be concerned about money. So I'm doing all of my services by donation right now for at least the month of April. We'll see if it extends. But you can sign up for consultation. We can work on your home. Right now, all of the by donation stuff is an hour session, and we'll use that time however you need, whether that's an astrology reading, whether you want to have a specific home sanctuary astrology reading where we work on your space using your chart. We can also do coaching. All of my services are sort of offered by donation right now. So we'll make sure to send out the link to book as well if you're interested, and if you would like to do some one-on-one work to connect. So thank you so much. I don't know if Alina, there's anything you wanted to say before we sign off.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. And I will say, someone asked, who asked? Nicole asked if you do charts, and I will say, Georgia, does she do charts? Absolutely. Many of us on this call have done a chart with Georgia, and she's incredible. So I highly recommend it. If you've ever been curious, this is like the Lamborghini of charts that you're gonna get. So serious, I don't know, I don't drive, so I'm not sure, but thank you everyone for joining us and for staying a little bit longer. This information, I mean, Georgia never fails to deliver like the best of the best and the highest quality information, so thank you so much. And we will follow up with all of Georgia's info after this. And then for Super School, I might not have mentioned this before, but we really did this because we have so many friends who are super talented like Georgia, whose work we really wanted to put out there so that we can come together as community to learn and to be together digitally during this time, but also to support our teachers who are, also struggling during this time. So everyone who donated to her, thank you so much. If you haven't, you can send her a Venmo at Georgia-Mark and Tony. We'll put it into the email. Anything counts. Everything is awesome. So much appreciated. And this coming week, we have a couple more really interesting Super School classes, and you're welcome to take them all. On what the most upcoming one is Wednesday. We have a course on sacred sexuality with a Tantra teacher named Amy Jindra, who's super talented as well. So we invite you all to join us for that. And have a wonderful day. It's a beautiful day in New York. Everyone take a walk, 6 feet, but take a walk outside. And we'll see you at the next one. Thank you all so much. PayPal too. Yes, Nicole, do you have a PayPal, Georgia?
I do.
We'll email it.
I'm trying to remember what it is. I'll put it in the email. I think it's also like Georgia Mark and Tony, but it might be a different name. I'm not sure.
Okay. Sounds great. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Melina. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful
Thank you guys so much for coming.
Absolutely.
Thanks, so much fun.